Monday night, we are live, the only tennis show on commercial radio in Australia. We can take your calls, 1300 736 736. A lot on the text tonight. I might park a few of those and get to those after 9 o'clock because I've got three studio guests and tennis here in Victoria is about to certainly fire up. The return of Pennant. We spoke to Paul Aiken on this program about 7 or 8 weeks ago when it was officially announced. So first of all, I want to certainly welcome into the studio Sean Spralja, Tennis Victoria Competitions Co-ordinator, fairly fresh in the role, Sean. So good to have you on board.
Yeah, 3 months into the role, Brett. So yeah, thanks for having me.
And you've walked straight into getting a competition revitalised that was once a very big part of tennis in Victoria. I had a look at the schedule over the next, 16 weeks. It's going to be action-packed right across different clubs around Melbourne. But just in a nutshell, for those that mightn't be across the news about Pennant coming back, tell us how it's all going to work.
Of course. So essentially for those of you who aren't quite aware of how Pennant, I guess, operates, we had State Grade as an offering in Pennant maybe 15 years ago. That sort of got phased out with the introduction of Premier League, Asia Pacific Tennis League, and a few other bits and pieces. So that was slowly phased out quite a few years ago. So what we've found, I guess, with Pennant and the overall team competition structure was there was a lot of disengagement with, I guess, the higher end.
Sure.
A lot of tournament players were playing those tournaments and following the tour around, playing the AR tournaments, the old AMTs, but not necessarily engaging with Pennant. Last year in particular, we saw a lot of team forfeits, a lot of individual player forfeits, a lot of teams that were dropping out of Grade 1 altogether. So it was a system that was in need of a bit of a reform. So we thought no better time with our 140th year of Pennant this year to bring State Grade back, and it's incredibly exciting for the competition.
Magnificent. So this weekend, we've got Grade 3 and below, I think, that kicks off, and then we sort of work up across, there's not too many weekends off between now and what about early September?
Yeah, certainly. So the women's State Grade actually gets started this weekend. So 6 teams getting started with the women's State Grade, and then the men's will follow shortly after on May 6th. So 14 rounds for the men, 15 for the women, all culminating in the grand final on September 2. So super exciting.
So I imagine everyone sort of jumped on board with a lot of enthusiasm here.
Absolutely, 100%. I think we did a State Grade photo shoot a couple of weeks ago in Port Melbourne, and just the atmosphere and the vibe and the buzz around State Grade was tangible and was there for all to see. And the standard of play that we've seen register for their teams for State Grade is so much higher than we saw last year under Grade 1. So the calibre of play representing their club is just is fantastic, and we'll hopefully see some really strong Australian talent and the best that Australian talent has to offer.
Beautiful little segue into Belinda Woolcock is in the studio, who's played on the tour, played college. She's going down another sporting little vocation at the moment. I want to talk to you about, Belinda, but hey, great to have you on the show. And are you excited about this competition? Because the quality certainly looks like it's going to be there.
Yeah, firstly, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm very excited to start this weekend. I think any opportunity to play some matches and competition at the moment is just amazing opportunity to take advantage of. So, yeah, very keen for this weekend.
And playing for Kooyong?
Yes, absolutely, always.
Yeah, but long time.
Yes, ever since I was young. I believe I started at about the age of 14. A lot of my family are members at Kooyong, so it's nice to continue the trend.
Just a beautiful place, isn't it?
Yes, definitely cannot complain, and the facilities are beautiful.
Yeah, the full renovation. Sometimes I just take the laptop down there and work out of the bistro just to
me too.
change things up, look over those beautiful lawn courts and think, how did they play the Australian Open here all those years ago? It's the first thing I sort of think of when I go to Kooyong.
100%.
It's compact, but it's still the historical home of Australian tennis.
Absolutely. There's a lot of amazing history there, and it's always good to see the signs of how many kilometres away Flushing Meadows or French Open is. It's very such a great setup.
So give us a feel for the Kooyong team.
Yeah, so it's really exciting. We've got a lot of young, fresh talent in our team, and then we've also got a couple of girls that have been with Kooyong for quite a number of years, like myself. It's really exciting. I think with that balance of both old and new, brings about that kind of, especially in doubles, I think we can provide a lot of balance between one another. So I'll be very keen to see how we go.
And great to also have Lewis Miles in the studio tonight. He's going to be playing for MCC Glen Iris Valley in the state grade team. But hey, Lewis, good to see you. Glenburn has been home.
That's where I've played for the last sort of 10 years. That's the club that I coached at and played for, and we've won a couple of flags in Grade 1, but last year we lost to Kooyong by a couple of games in the final. So, coming into this year, myself and a few others players sort of got together to sort of push the banner to start state grade again. And I started playing state grade, back when I was at 15, and the last, back when it finished in 09, that was sort of, I was starting out playing, and so it's great to have it back. Yeah.
And, of course, we've got players, a real mixture, players that have played on the tour, those who have played at that sort of pennant level, really good club level, who can play at a really, really good standard. For those that mightn't have followed your journey, give us a little pen pick of
throughout state grade, I've played, guys like Richard Fromberg who came off the tour. So you get guys who are still very good who come off. Then, you play Mark Polmans when he's younger, and I've been able to beat a lot of players, but it's often because they're coming down from top 100 or they're, 12 years older. But the irony is that the thing with tennis as you get older is that there's a lot of guys who can play a very high level of tennis. They just can't play tournaments because it's so hard to back up the nature of playing tournaments and matches with repeat matches, 2 matches, quarter semis, the next day final. It's so hard. But what you've got is so many great players just sitting around in Melbourne who, talent-wise or skill-wise, are still quite strong, but tournaments are just way too hard for them to compete in, but the actual expertise is still pretty high.
So what do you feel like? I mean, you can all sort of jump in here, but what do you feel like this does for Victorian tennis by having this back?
Yeah, I think it provides almost that pathway, not only for those state grade players, but for the juniors coming up.
Yep.
I think when you had Paul Aitken come on the show a few weeks ago, he mentioned that he was a young 13, 14-year-old peering through the fence, watching those state grade players and thinking, I want to be a state grade player one day. So it's not just the state grade players that this affects. This has an effect right the way down the pathway. So grade 1 all the way through to grade 12 in the men's, grade 5 in the women's. Any of those players, any of those juniors can go and see, okay, I can be a state grade player and really represent my club at the highest level or one of the highest levels of play that Victorian tennis has to offer. So it's super exciting.
It's a big talking point, isn't it, Belinda? Just, the pathways in Australia. I feel like we discuss it a lot on our show. Competitive play calendar put out at the start of this year, trying to provide more opportunities for everyone to keep the dream alive. Some have been able to achieve the dream. Some have been able to tour and be a part of global tennis. Others maybe don't have that aspiration but want to play at a really good level in Victoria. So I'm just keen to tap into your minds here as to how you see sort of the pathway and the opportunity by playing, some really good quality tennis at that sort of next level down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think tennis, first and foremost, it's an international sport, so we've got so many opportunities for grassroots. So for myself, something like collegiate level, going over to America and pursuing that degree, as well as being able to be on that high level Division 1 and being able to get televised on ESPN against Stanford in an NCAA national championship. There's moments like those where that's an amazing grassroots for tennis, and then having that balance of a degree, because as a lot of people know, you never know what happens with injury, so to have that backup is always a smart idea. But also in regards to grassroots, I think if we can get that sense of community, which I believe obviously with the state grade it's really important. I think having that sense of community and building that foundation within your club, within the people around you, and having that kind of those levels to build up is really great for juniors. And for myself growing up, I had that, and it's really motivating and inspiring to see a lot of good players out there on the weekends. So yeah, I'm really keen to see everyone come together and play on the weekends.
And just that team aspect, Lewis. I mean, we think about the top level. I mean, there's more team competitions coming in. I mean, tennis players thrive. It seems like they thrive when there's an opportunity to be part of something bigger than just themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Well, tennis, naturally, is more of a team sport than people realise. It's obviously an individual sport, but if you look at the win-loss from countries of where people play at home, like when the Aussies play here, they do a lot better. If you look at home and away in all sports, it's incredibly biased towards home teams. So what that means is there's a social bearing for the players. If you look at AFL players, like why do they play better in Perth than here? It's the same in tennis. So there's obviously motivation comes from being part of a club. And for supporters, if you look at, like, say, local footy, supporters want to be part of a local club and they need to see some kind of expertise for a fun Saturday afternoon. So I think, like, tennis for clubs in particular, like the clubs need it. They need strong players at their clubs. And people walk past, they start to watch, they go, this is actually pretty good to watch. It's not as bad as we thought. And some of the players playing it's synonymous with watching, lower level Oz Open, so it's really good tennis, but it brings the club and that sort of level of tennis together a bit more.
So on the back of that, Sean, how do you get more eyeballs to wander past, park a seat, and actually watch some pretty good high standard tennis?
Yeah, so it's really about, I guess, publicising this state grade concept and the pennant concept and getting it out there to our clubs. Our communications and content team are doing a power of work behind the scenes to really publicise state grade and give it the love that it deserves. So we'll see the fruits of all the work that they're doing on our socials, on our website, on our new Stack Team app, a new pennant hub app for pennant players as well. So we'll really start to see the fruits of that labour to come through as the season goes. But we've got super rounds. We've got a grand final with both men's and women's together. So again, those are really good opportunities for clubs to publicise and to get other members, other prospective tennis players down to their clubs and really celebrate the standard of play that we have to offer.
Yeah, and here at the First Serve, we'll certainly get behind it and through our socials, through our show here, talk to different players across the journey. Belinda, I wanted to touch, I know we're heavily focused on tennis, but the footy path that you're tackling as well, and we saw when AFLW came in almost a decade ago now, we had a lot of players who were sort of from other sports having a go at footy, and it's changed a hell of a lot, that competition, more coming from sort of the grassroots. But the vocation, the footy vocation, and still having a love to play tennis as well. Tell us how you're sort of combining that.
Yeah, so I actually decided to pick up footy last year, and I think it was a big step for me. I think tennis has brought about so many amazing opportunities I'm so grateful for, but I was ready for a new challenge, so decided to pick up footy just at the Casey Demons, and I was fortunate enough to actually be a train-on and be an emergency player a couple of times for the Melbourne Demons, the AFLW team who won a premiership last year. So I was really grateful to be a part of that team. But as for the switch, it is very full on with the contact. I no longer have a net to protect myself. It's a 360 vision. I've got to do a few head swivels now. But no, I'm just really excited for the challenge. But I also still have that love and that drive for tennis, which I'm passionate to still represent Kooyong as well, because they've really supported me throughout my junior with the foundation. So I'm really excited to see how the balance goes. I don't know how the body will pull up, but we will see.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep a close eye on that. But no, it's still great that there's the love for tennis, and you can combine a couple of sports. We're going to get a quick break in. We'll come back and cover off a few other aspects with our guests tonight. But Pennant, State Grade, it is coming back. And if you are tuning in Melbourne, we will, and of course you can go to the Tennis Victoria website. Sean, the fixture will be up there through your socials. We'll put it up on our channels as well, and people can find a home somewhere. It's just about covering all parts of Melbourne.
Absolutely. It's so our pennant competition covers from Mount Eliza all the way through to Geelong and everywhere in between. So if you name a club, they're more than likely involved in pennant. There's over 140 clubs involved this year, and it spans far and wide.
Brilliant. More to come after the break here on the First Serve. Always great to have your company on a Monday night through to 10 o'clock tonight. Plenty coming up after 9, our college segment. Also, Craig Christopher, Coaching to Compete. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Ashley Cooper Championships and the scholarship holders up in Queensland. That is up in the mailbag back tonight. A couple of things have jumped into the mailbag. And the WTA returning to China has been a big talking point in the last week. But Pennant, State Grade, it's back in Victoria. Sean Spralja, of course, from Tennis Victoria, is the competitions coordinator. Give us a little feel, Sean, some of the matches we can have a quick look at for this weekend to kick it all off.
Yes, certainly. So as I mentioned, women's will get started this weekend. So just going through each of the matches. So Belinda's Kooyong team, so they'll play at home this weekend against Diggers Rest. So Diggers Rest is a really interesting proposition. They've got Destiny Iava as their number one player.
Oh, okay.
Catherine Westbury in there as well. So some really high caliber players. So if they can get those two girls on the park and playing consistently, then they'll be a real force to be reckoned with. We've got Harkaway, who competed in the Premier League for the first time last year, so it was great to have them involved. They'll be back in State Grade this year. They'll play against Morris Lawn in that match in round 1. And then another heavyweight duel in Royal South Yarra against Grace Park as well. So looking forward to seeing how all those go. So if you're in the area, if you're around, feel free to pop down and create an atmosphere at these matches.
I don't live too far from, I'm sort of in between Grace Park and Kooyong. Is beautiful. And it's funny, I used to walk my dog through Grace Park and I'd never been inside. And I thought, my goodness me, I stepped inside. And if you would never know how good that place is. It's sort of like, Belinda,
it's been redone.
It has. It's like the mini Kooyong, a mini Kooyong in a sense. I mean, gym and function rooms and squash courts.
It's a beautiful balcony and bar upstairs as well. If the sun's out, it's awesome.
Lewis, how often are you sort of hitting a week? What does a typical week look like for you?
Oh, look, you got to hit a fair bit just to be able to play like the Premier League level. Like it's, and a lot of it's you're doing enough just to be able to play one sort of good match a week. Tennis, like you can't really play that level, I don't think, if you're not hitting maybe twice a week or 3 times a week maybe. Like when you're coaching, you're on court a little bit anyway, but it's not the same. You've got to do some gym work and then a trip to the physio to get ready as well. So you can't just rock up and play at that level. Those habits just sort of come from growing up playing tournaments, the preparation that's needed for it. I think people just think you can just rock up and play tennis at that level. It's pretty tricky.
Do you enjoy the coaching as well? I mean, a lot of players, I had Dane Kelly on the show a week ago. He's gone back-to-back on the ITF tour and he's also, trying to coach Max Purcell, who's had this incredible rise in the last few months. But this is the great part about tennis, isn't it? I mean, I've had many guests on this show who have played to a certain level and then said, okay, maybe it's coaching I'll go down the path of. So all their travel overseas, they're going to the sort of intel, they've learnt some of the best practice and I mean, there's a role in tennis. This is the great part, isn't it? If you say, okay, maybe the body's not as able as it used to be, I can coach, I can still be involved in the nuts and bolts of tennis.
Oh, absolutely. And compared to other sports, like tennis coaching is quite inherent for tennis players. Like you can rock straight into it. And it's pretty great to have a career just pretty much ready for any player. And we're in demand of people to work, to coach. So like anyone who stops playing will have a job straight away, which you can't say the same for another sport.
Yeah. Everyone says to me, Belinda, that tennis players would be the best people to employ because they've learnt a hell of a lot of resilience across their career.
We are an odd bunch, but we do work hard. No, I think going back to the coaching side, like even when I ruptured my ACL, I did coach for about 8 months. And my gosh, I did see the court differently. You do pick up on a lot of things, even coaching little ones. You do start to see even just strategy, and when you are coaching and educating others, it does help your own game. So I actually think it's a really good idea, even if players are in between tournaments, just to do a bit of coaching.
It's a great point. I'll give a little plug to one of our podcasts. Nathan Healy, who had been guiding Max Purcell in recent times, he had a career, coached Leighton Hewitt right at the back end of his career. And have a listen to it. Match My Career. He plays Davydenko, third round 2006 Australian Open, when Margaret Court used to be wild and open and boisterous and just a crazy sort of court, which sort of show court 3 is now. And he talked about then not really thinking about strategy, just going out there and playing. But now he's become this coach, with Play Awake and the holistic approach and just the thinking behind it. So it's really interesting to listen to someone from that era and how they've adapted to now try and coach players of this modern era. Yeah,
and the on-tour coaching is a lot different to grassroots coaching in a way. The intensity is a lot different in the lifestyle of it. But, club coaching in particular. One thing people don't realise with grassroots and club kids is that a kid never rocks up to a tennis club and thinks, I'm a recreational player. Every kid who plays when they're chasing a ball is playing as if they're impersonating a professional. So the professional side of tennis is so much more ingrained in club tennis than people realise. People aren't there, I'm playing socially. Like they're there and chasing the ball down as if they, so it's their thinking is that they're a professional in the making. Yeah. That's how they see it. So it's closer than you realise. Yeah.
We're a competitive lot, aren't we? When it's all said and done,
we're the most competitive people in the world.
We cross that white line. We want to win. So I'm just throwing a question without notice here, but over the next 16 weeks, is there a couple of dark horses I should keep an eye on, Sean or Belinda or Lewis? Just a couple of names?
Yeah, certainly. So already covered Destiny Iava in terms of the women's side. Obviously, Belinda as part of her Kooyong team, but just, I guess, switching tack to the men's. So There's some real quality across all 8 men's teams this year. We've got Matt Romios down at Tennis World.
Yes.
Got Lucas Viridin and Matt Dellavedova at North Ringwood. So
Nice.
they're certainly a team to look out for. We've got Jimmy Wang down at Faulkner, former ATP professional.
Yes.
So he'll do a little bit for Faulkner Tennis Club this year, which is really exciting. We've got Aaron Addison, part of Lewis's Glen Iris team this year. So again, a really high-credentialed professional.
Yep.
And a few other names that, we really want to keep an eye out for as well.
Great stuff. Time's speeding me, guys. Great to have you in, Lewis, Belinda, Sean, thank you.
No worries at all. Thanks for having us.
Tennis Victoria, website, socials.
Absolutely, yep. Our website, Tennis Victoria Pennant, as well as our socials on Facebook and Instagram is where you'll find all the latest information on Pennant.